And it is Crew Call presented by FloRacing, the home of NASCAR roots and your digital home track. Man, oh man, lots of great racing on FloRacing and lots of great racing in the NASCAR world. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for MRN, joined by 25-time winning and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great to hang out. Great to have you as part of the MRN crew out at Kansas. We always enjoy when we get a chance to hang out and watch a little racing together. I think that was fun. And how about that? Last week we had Booty Barker here as our guest, and Sunday afternoon Booty Barker was in Victory Lane. Pretty cool moment for that team.
Yeah, I think we're just a little bit of a bump here, but
yeah.
Obviously that team had speed in the spring. Booty talked about it in last week's episode that you know they weren't going to deviate too far from what they saw at Michigan, and Michigan was built off of the first Kansas, where their teammate dominated the race much like they did.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And actually, that Kansas race, that was one where they had a tire problem on pit road, and they finished 10th. And I kind of had them in the category of the second best car to Kurt that weekend too. So they certainly got to be able to pay this back. And just really neat moment for Booty, for the team, and for Bubba Wallace, and really just a strong performance. I was looking at the cumulative report, and he was, first third of the race, 5th, 6th, 7th, second third of the race, 4th, 5th, and the final 67 laps, he led all but a pit sequence. He was just, they tuned that thing up for the right time.
Yeah, I think a couple things happened here within the race. One, they had to come back for a wheel that they thought was loose. Right. They lost track position. Fast car, good car, drove themselves back up into the top 10. A lot of cautions early. I think the before the end of stage 2, the longest green flag run we had was 28 laps long, and really didn't show the strengths of what their car was. They drove Booty made a good call, got them on stickers for that run to the end of stage 2. A lot of guys took their scuffs there, worried about where their tire allocation was going, and then pit crew stepped them up, got them to the front row. And we saw the long run speed of that 45 car in the final stage. We hadn't seen it before that because we hadn't had a long enough run. But lap 30, he passed the 48, and he just strolled out to a decent lead. I really feel like Denny Hamlin closed it up to 1.1, 1.2 seconds at the end. I think if Bubba had to, he could have maintained that 4-second lead. I really feel like the end of the race, he was just managing to win the race.
It seemed like that to me, too. And listening on the radio, they were just reading them lap times. You're this versus that. Margin is this. And it would extend out to 1.5. It would drop down to 1, but it stayed right there in that range. It really
in managing traffic and keeping his risk at bay while he knew he was going to win. Just kudos to Booty Barker, to Bubba Wallace, that whole 45 team, and 2311 Racing. They have shown that they dominate Kansas.
No doubt about it. They really have. Their performance, though, and we talked to this in Booty, and I think you would kind of reference since New Hampshire, that team, boy, once they got their footing, that team has been a solid team. So winning the race, let alone the Kansas success, winning a race is not a shocker. That team has been very, very solid over the last half of this year.
I was talking to David Wilson yesterday and had the conversation. And since it's in the last 10 races, I think Booty Barker has the highest average finish of anybody in the Cup Series.
I read that too.
And second's Christopher Bell.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think this team, as you talked about, they've turned the corner and they're putting finishes together that are their championship winning finishes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Christopher Bell, you mentioned him. The only other one locked into the round of 12. Mm-hmm. I was doing a podcast. I do a podcast for Circle B Diecast, one of my personal clients, and someone asked the question, your top 4, your final 4, and I think we kind of had Joey in there, Chase Elliott in there. I think you and I kind of thought going into it we were comfortable with that. I'm not sure how comfortable we are now. I think I might be most comfortable with Christopher Bell and Adam Stevens. Their performance has been so solid.
Yes. I mean, Adam's won championships. I mean, it's a great leader. I think Christopher's got a ton of talent. I do think out of that group, and they've executed. They've executed the base hit round that I would call it, of not just shooting yourself in the foot. They had a pretty ho-hum day yesterday to a third place, or Sunday to a third place finish. But really, they've done a good job. They've had speed. I would argue consistently probably the best of the JGR cars. as far as speed, and I could put them through to the final. I still think Joey looks pretty good. Chase has not looked as good as I thought he would.
No, I agree.
But I also know that right now they don't need to be.
Right.
And we'll see where Allen and Chase get to when the pressure comes.
My hunch is they might just be all right. I'm kind of with you on that. I tend to think that they're going to be all right.
There is a plan to getting through the playoffs, and everybody's plan is different depending on where their bonus points are. And I think we're in a position where they took a little bit of a hit from that Darlington run, but
when they get reset, they get a lot of that back though too.
As long as he gets through this round, the next round ends at the Roval. I think he's pretty good there.
Yeah, I think so.
I just put the plan together.
I think he's just had a little bit of success there at the Roval. Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that one. I had Kevin Harvick going through, and he's in a win to get in.
Yeah,
really, I feel like at this point.
Yeah, 35 points back. You've got to win this thing.
And 35 points back of six cars.
The problem is
trying to chase 3 positions.
Yeah, the 35 points is one challenge, but it's the volume. There's a whole lot of people that have got to have a whole lot of bad times to get you to point your way in.
And some really good cars in that group.
Yeah. No doubt about it. So what we're going to do here today, and I'm really excited about this, Mark Setzer is crew chief for Jeremy Clements. So Jeremy wins Daytona, new crew chief winner. Dial him up. Let's get him on the show. Yes, he's coming in. Yes, he's coming in. Wait a minute. No, he's not coming in because there's a penalty and there's an appeal and there's a process. They go through the appeal and the process and they win the appeal. And so we're going to go right back to where we're at in August, and Mark Setzer is going to join us. So looking forward to that. What a great story with Jeremy Clements and that team.
Yes, it is. And it'd be great to get a little insight into what the appeal process is like and how they kind of won it back and what they had to do to it and how that's impacted the rest of their season. Those are questions I've got for him coming up.
Yeah, that is going to be great. That is for sure. So we look forward to talking to Mark Setzer here on the program. You know, you can subscribe to FloRacing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the NASCAR Wheel and Modifieds, ARCA Menard Series, Pinty's and NASCAR Weekly Racing Series action on FloRacing.com. Subscribe today. Over 1,300 live events and events on demand. The headliner for this weekend is, and this is a really neat race, the Eddie Partridge 256. And Eddie was a longtime owner of Ryan Preece's car and others, and owner of Riverhead Raceway. And last year, I think it was, coming back from winning the race at Richmond, Eddie passed away on the journey back home. So Saturday night, the NASCAR Wheel and Modifieds are at Riverhead for the Eddie Partridge 256. Weekly Racing, Autodrome Granby, Jennerstown, Hickory's crowning champions, Florence's crowning champions, Langley, Meridian, and Evergreen. FloRacing.com/GoMRN. That's FloRacing.com/GoMRN. Mark Setzer, he joins us next. Welcome back. It is Crew Call presented by FloRacing. So glad you've joined us here, and so glad we get to celebrate finally. We love new crew chief winners. And when we get one, the text chain goes out and we do work to try to get them. And then we got Mark Setzer on, and then we didn't get Mark Setzer on because of the appeal and everything. And now the appeal has been won, and Mark joins us from probably down in Spartanburg, down at the old race shop down there. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Doing great, guys. Thanks a lot for having us on.
Well, congratulations again. It took you a couple weeks to get there, but I cannot imagine what it feels like for you, the satisfaction of being an Xfinity Series crew chief winner and to win at Daytona as well is pretty sweet.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've raced my whole life, whether it's short track racing, watching my family race at Hickory Speedway. So now to win at Daytona as a crew chief is just amazing. It has been something special.
Hey, when we talk about the appeal, you won the appeal this weekend, and the verbiage in it that they didn't find you in violation of the rule that they claimed you were, and really there's a whole process to this piece. And I've talked to Jeremy a little bit about motor teardown and first time being down there, and actually the part that they were concerned about didn't actually need to go down for inspection. It got inspected at the racetrack. How did you prepare for this appeal, and what do you think the main factor was in deciding that you weren't in violation of the intake rule?
Well, first off, we'd like to just thank NASCAR for having a process that we can go through that we could appeal that. And then the way that it played out there were 6 other engines there or 5 other engines plus ours that were being tore down. None of those engines had intakes on them. It was a long block assembly inspection. The intakes weren't supposed to be there or supposed to be teched. And they took it upon themselves to tech it since it was there. And I think one of the big things is, the intake was not in their possession the whole time. We passed tech, we passed at the racetrack, we passed the choke down, everything there. And then that came back to the shop as an unsealed component. And so other than a part number that the teams themselves stamp on it, there's no way of knowing what intake was actually ran or not.
So you found, and that was the preparation that you guys put in to follow. The appeal process fascinates me. So it's got to be an arduous, it's got to be a pretty detail oriented process that you guys put together to lobby your case.
It is very nerve wracking.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
be honest. It's just like being in court. I mean, you have your time that you can speak. NASCAR has their time, and then there's a break. Then there's a time for rebuttals to go back and forth as far as what each side has stated. And it is a very intense process, but just very thankful that the appeals panel saw it how we did, and I feel like it was the right call by everyone concerned, and just happy we had that opportunity.
Nice.
So when we look at this and you win at Daytona, I mean, to me, once you've got that win, there's a whole different playoff preparation that goes into your head because you know you're in it. How much is the focus on the appeal distracted you from that, and how much do you think you can recover in the couple weeks you've got to start the playoffs?
It has absolutely taken a toll. I mean, it just sucked the life out of everyone here. I mean, we're a small team. We have Jeremy and myself, and then 3 other full-time employees is all that's here. So when you go from the high of highs and then you just have the whole life sucked out of you there Tuesday following that, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it has been tough the last couple of weeks. Now we're back in high gear. We need to get through Bristol with a solid race so that we can lock ourselves into the owner's chase by holding on to that top 20 in owners points. And then we are already, wide open on preparation for Texas, for Talladega, and for Charlotte. We have a great road course program. Our speedway program is probably our weakest, but we're wide open here, just trying to do everything we can.
Your facility, and we'll talk a little bit about Bristol in a little bit here, but your place, Jeremy had us down there. I was doing a TV program, and Jeremy had us down there, and I love it because there's a small Xfinity Series shop, and there is a engine shop there. Clements Racing Engines. Just kind of describe what Clements Racing Engines is and means, because they're like one of the premier engine builders in the dirt late model world. Kind of describe what your setup is down there.
Well, the engine shop is probably about twice the size of the Xfinity shop. They're putting out over 300 dirt late model engines a year. They are back ordered on new engines because they are what dirt late model guys want. They win Eldora, they win the big races at Bristol. When it comes to dirt racing. So last Tony said they are probably 80 new engines behind on orders. So they are just wide open on the engine side. The Xfinity side is a little bit smaller, and we're a little cramped in here, but it's a amazing opportunity for me, and the family has just been amazing to me since I've been here since last year.
Nice.
Really cool. Really cool. And you talked about you've got 3, you and Jeremy and 3 guys. When you get to the racetrack, the shop, the assembly shop's got to be empty at that point. You've got to get all your work done in a week, don't you?
Well, actually, we have 2 shop guys that don't travel. So me, Jeremy, and our tire guy, Dave, are the only ones that leave the shop. And then we have a volunteer that comes in every weekend who actually lives in New York. And he flies to every race and helps us, then along with Tony. So yeah, that's it. I mean, it's a very small group. We have some volunteers that'll show up here and there, but it's a very small group. So when you go to Indy or some of those places that you're pushing what seems like 2 miles to pit road and pushing stuff back, it gets a little tough with the small guys.
I am sure. Yeah, I never thought about that. That is such a throwback. I had a buddy when I'm from upstate New York, and a buddy of mine, he volunteered for Alan Kowicki, so he would go to everything on the East Coast. That is a throwback, really, to have volunteer help. But boy, that guys like that are critical to you, to you guys, Mark, to be able to do what you do with the size and scale of your team.
Oh, absolutely. We couldn't do it without John's help and without the other individuals that have come to certain races, whether it be somebody that lives in Michigan coming to the Midwest races there that's close to drive. And I mean, it's a small family run team. That's doing it that way is what has kept them in this sport for over the last 11 years. So, they don't do anything crazy, but they're 110% focused on their team and on Jeremy. And there's no doubt Jeremy Clements can win in any car that he's given the correct stuff. I mean, he's a proven winner his whole life. So we're just doing the best we can without engineering support, without a Hendrick or a ECR engine program. I mean, the dirt late model program takes precedence. I mean, that's their livelihood as a family, and for all the employees there at Clements Racing Engine. So we do what we can on the Xfinity side, and it's been pretty special.
It's really cool to see that too. It's the David and Goliath, and to see you win at Daytona. He's won before. He won at Road America, I believe it was in the past. Really cool to see you guys. Do what you can. I've been part of that smaller team with volunteer help. I've got a really good friend of mine out of New Hampshire that was that for many years for me. It's cool to have those people still involved in the sport and doing their things. As you look at it now, do you do anything differently in your preparations going to the playoffs than you've done prior, now that you know that you're into the playoffs?
Really, preparation wise, I mean, we're just gonna have to be the same. I've got to do the best I can based off of notes from Texas. We wasn't great there the first race this year, but we have to make sure we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. Is the main thing. That's what we did last year, and that's the reason that we were able to point our way into the playoffs last year. I mean, at the end of the regular season, we had completed more laps than any Xfinity Series team in the series last year. This year, luck has just not been on our side. I think we've had 5 top 10s, but there's been 7 or 8 other races that we had solid top 10 cars, and whether it be a penalty at Coda while we was running third for cutting the corner there at one part of the track, or running 5th at Darlington coming to the checkered off of turn 4. Just stuff has happened this year that's has just bad luck. So we just got to do everything that we've been doing, make sure we don't have anything mechanical failures that we can help, and then depend on Jeremy to do his best with what we give him.
This week coming up, Bristol, you talk about the challenge to make sure you maintain your spot in the top 20 in points. You're not racing for a playoff spot. You've got that back. And actually, Mark, looking back at your history, you're a former winner there at Bristol, UARA. So what you put that all together? What's the level of anticipation, and what are you looking at going to Bristol this Friday night?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Probably one of the highlights of my career, winning at Bristol, other than the championships at Hickory as a late model driver and stuff. But we just hope that we can take that all South electric Chevrolet and make it as fast as Xfinity Internet, as Jeremy would say. We've had good cars.
Well
there.
played.
I mean, we're looking for a solid top 10. He's been good there last year and over the last several years. So that's a track that Jeremy Clements loves, and I think our cars have been good there. So I'm really looking for a top 10 run and locking ourselves. I mean, obviously we're in the driver's chase, but we want to be in that owner's points for Tony Clements and Clements Racing also.
So having been a driver and a winner at Bristol, is that that has to make the connection to what he's talking about, giving driver feedback in his race car, a little more vivid than most other crew chiefs would have?
I believe so. I mean, we get along so well. I mean, he's the driver, so obviously he gets aggravated when things aren't driving great. But we have that communication as someone that has drove to where we can we work through it. I mean, we were here yesterday evening going over Bristol, and I wasn't there last year. I prepared the car, but I had a death in the family to where I wasn't at Bristol, so we were going over the notes, and I'm on the set, getting ready to go on the setup plate and the pull down today. So just making sure exactly what we were going to change to try to be better. And I think you finished 12th or 13th there last year, so we're looking for a top 10 this time.
Neat stuff, that's for sure. Mark, your background, we just talked about it a little bit, the UARA win. You're a champion at Hickory Motor Speedway. You've also won the big Bobby Isaac Memorial up there at Hickory Motor Speedway. And you celebrated, I think this is the coolest thing in the world. I snoop around on social media when I know we're talking to somebody. You go to Daytona, you win the race, and you and your daughter go to Hickory to celebrate the day after. It is got to be a neat life to have Hickory Motor Speedway, being a Setzer, part of the entire Setzer clan, which there's many layers to that, but it's just got to be neat to have that as part of your history, part of your story.
Oh, it's amazing. I grew up at Hickory Speedway. My dad and his brothers, the Setzer brother race team, fielded cars for other drivers. My brother drove. They've won many races at Hickory Speedway. My dad ran record service at Hickory Speedway during the Bushker National years with Tommy Houston. I grew up with the Houston boys, going to the same high school. We were friends. I mean, so the racing history there is just so deep, and winning championships at Hickory Speedway, at Tri-County Speedway right up the road in Hudson, and being able to have my girls there. I remember having my oldest daughter Peyton in Victory Lane at Hickory Speedway in a onesie during the when I was driving a late model super truck there. So it's amazing. But my daughter, she gets a little aggravated sometimes, because when you walk into Hickory and my history there, she says, "Well, Dad, we can't walk 5 steps without having to talk to somebody," and wanting to, so they enjoy the racing, but they understand what Dad has went through there, and the many years of racing and winning there.
That is a good thing.
Yeah,
it's a real good thing.
It's really cool.
When you get stopped. Okay. So you now you talk about it. I always joke around that I have 2 daughters. I live in the International House of Women. I have nothing compared to you. Yeah, Todd's a girl dad as well. We have nothing to you. 3 daughters and now a granddaughter. Dude,
Yeah.
how do you survive all of that?
I work a lot. Yeah, I have an hour and a half drive to Spartanburg, and then I have an hour and a half drive to get back home. So I have time to decompress and get myself prepared for a house full of women. But yeah, the new granddaughter, Blakely Rain, has just been such a blessing. My oldest daughter is now a junior cheerleader in high school. So unfortunately, I missed the football game. So we try to spend as much time together and do things as we can. But yeah, I've been outnumbered for many of years, and it doesn't look like that's going to change on the grandchild side either.
That is neat.
That's
really
really cool.
neat. Okay, final question for you here. And I saw that you guys did a little team building. You went go-kart racing sometime back during the summer at some point. You went go-kart racing. And I think it ended up where you won a bunch of races and Jeremy won a bunch of races. And I'm not sure we determined, are you a better race car driver than Jeremy, or is Jeremy a better race car driver than you?
I'm gonna, since he's not here to defend himself, I'm gonna say I'm the better race car driver. But I had a 100-pound weight penalty because I'm bigger than he is. So I had to tell the guy he had to make sure I had the best cart, because I was giving up 100 pounds to Jeremy. So yeah, we ended up tied on wins, but it was an amazing time. Like I say, Jeremy Clements is if the people don't know him personally, is just just a great person, the whole family. And for him to do that, I mean, he paid for everybody right out of his own pocket. I mean, and this is a small team. I mean, you're not talking about somebody that's driving for a Junior or a Gibbs. I mean, he did that out of his, he said, we need to do something together. I mean, and we'll go to do different other stuff together. So it's just been an amazing deal.
Amazing deal for sure, and an amazing win at Daytona, a winning crew chief in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Mark, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. Get that car on the surface plate, get it ready to go to Bristol, but thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
There we go. That is Mark Setzer joining us from Clements Racing. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call presented by FloRacing, the home of NASCAR roots and your digital home track. Steve Post and Todd Gordon here. Boy, I'm telling you what, it is so neat to get a little different perspective on our NASCAR racing from a guy like Mark Setzer working out of their little shop in Spartanburg alongside of that big engine shop. Really neat to get his perspective.
Yeah, and what a story. I mean, you talk about it, him and three guys working in the shop with Jeremy. Reminds me of days when I first came down to NASCAR racing to North Carolina in '99 working for Phil Parsons. And we even back then had more than that. So to be able to compete and make the playoffs and put himself in a position with that group and volunteers, it's what a great story.
It really truly is. It's really neat. There's such passion in our sport, and we see it at the top levels. We see it with the A-list crew chiefs. We talk to the A-list competition directors. It's a passion-driven sport, but it's a passion-driven sport for Mark Setzer as well.
Yes.
And it's just done a whole lot differently, that's for sure, and really, really fun. That is for sure. And speaking of fun, it's Bristol, baby. And yeah, I had to say that. But I don't even know what to expect because Bristol in the spring was a dirt track race. Now we're back to concrete. What are we going to see at Bristol? And then oh, by the way, there's a little point battle going on that's a cutoff race as well.
I mean, you go back through the years. I've won the night race at Bristol twice, 14 and 15 with Joey. I mean, it's two of my biggest prize possessions is trophies there because it's its own entity. You know, the night race at Bristol just has such a vibe and as a regular race it was.
Yeah.
And now it's the cutoff race of the first round. And, oh, by the way, we've got 6 guys within 13 points vying for 3 spots. And oh, by the way, we've got the guy that finished first and second in the last 2 concrete races there that's out of the play that needs to win to get in. And oh, by the way, this guy that made some announcement this week, he's on the wrong side of the cutoff line.
He's on the outside as well. Yeah.
Just new next gen car hasn't been there. We're going back to, this is really the first race for next gen on this. We'll see how it works with the PJ1 at the bottom. How it works up against the wall. If it gets up there, they'll not have enough practice to run up there. Will they miss the setups on what they need to do to run up top? Because they can't run up there in practice because there won't be rubber up there. There's so much. You can't miss this one.
It's going to be fascinating. I talked to Christopher Bell about this, and he was one that did a tire test there. And I said, what do you think? And he said, first off, this is speculation. He's just like, he said, this is, we don't know what we're going to see. But he was like, well, we might just be all up along the wall, which sounds ho-hum until you get to lap traffic. And then it's chaos. But it might be similar to what we saw at Kansas. The car that wins the race might have a little bit something different there. It might have to have a little something different. If that's even where it ends up.
We'll see. And honestly, I'll go back. Like when we won there, we ran up against the wall.
Right.
I like the fact that the place rubber's up against the wall because there's different ways to attack that place. We raced with Kevin Harvick for the first one in 14, and we were like, Joey would enter at the wall, and then we'd turn off the wall and drive straight down the hill to exit. And Kevin would drive in straight at the bottom and straight up. We were 2 completely different lines.
Really? Yeah.
It's crazy. There's opportunity even if it does end up ringing the wall, the ability to turn off of that rubber and turn down the hill and get to run up beside somebody, and then a slide job. And then
it's going to be.
You can't put a bad race on at Bristol. The only way it gets bad, and we had this at one point. If they get too much PJ1 where it starts to ball rubber up the racetrack and takes where the rest of the racetrack becomes dirty, then it gets bad. But no, it's going to be phenomenal.
It's going to be awesome. It really, truly is. NASCAR Xfinity Series there on Friday night. They're going to wrap up their regular season, which seems weird. We've been in such playoff mode, they're going to do that. And the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, if you are watching or listening to this on Thursday, big night here tonight with 6:30, the Busch Beans 200 Arca Menard Series race, and at 8:30, the UNOH 200, presented by Ohio Logistics, NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race. Our friends at PRN have the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series coverage this weekend from Bristol. But man, I'll tell you what, it's Bristol, baby, is what it is, and I can't even. I think that's the thing is not even. And Todd, it's been a crazy week. It's been a crazy week. I can't imagine the craziness when we go into Bristol and what that's going to be like. To me, it's like an exclamation point on a crazy week.
And on top of that, we've heard, I mean, I've talked to several drivers back and forth. They're 50-50 on whether they'll have to shift here.
I heard that too.
If they have to shift here, that's 2,000 shifts. 2,000 shifts. It's 500 laps and 4 shifts a lap.
Yeah,
It's 2,000 shifts. I hope it doesn't have to happen, but I definitely think that there will be some guys, especially if Christopher talked about ringing the top.
Yeah,
there might be some guys that downshift just to get that big
to get
scoot
that
off.
run, to get that run
So
off. Yeah.
It's going to be spectacular.
It's going to be wild. It really, truly is. So we'll be following along with the friends of PRN and see where we go with it. That's for sure. Again, we really appreciate Mark Setzer joining us. What a great conversation.
Yes.
Great perspective. We appreciate that. We wish them the best as they go playoff racing starting next week as well. So he's Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post. Thanks for joining us here on Crew Call, presented by FloRacing, the home of NASCAR roots. With over 1,300 races, you can stream live and on demand. Subscribe now. FloRacing.com. More information, FloRacing.com/GoMRN. Thanks for joining us, everyone.